Hey everybody, it's Knothead. Coming to you this week to talk about my change of mind in some of the sweep tires I've been running and prepping to go to a big race or a series race somewhere or to a new track that you've never been to. Doing this one a little different because I need to work on my center diff because it kind of relates to the video. So to tackle the first topic, as I mentioned in some of my other videos, I have changed my mind on initial thoughts on some of the tires that I had tried initially for sweep. Specifically on whips. I think my initial reaction on them probably was just due to wrong compound. On the whips, I was running a blue in a time where blue probably wasn't the best. I ran some yellow whips recently, both down at the Dirt Challenge, and I ran it for a series race at Indy, and they did really, really well. So I think it was probably at that point, going back and remembering what I said, I think it was about blue on one of my initial orders. Probably just a wrong compound and the car was a little out of control. It could have also been setup related. But it's been my experience that if your car is uncontrollable, it's probably the large part of it tires. So I'm willing to assume and bet that I was just in general on the wrong compound. So whips are good. I like whips now. They're probably not. They're still probably not a go-to tire for me, but they're not one that I wouldn't not recommend. For club racing, if you want to use them a time or two or three, definitely go with a whip. It's a large pin, very similar to a Proline Blockade. So they're going to last a while. You don't need to worry about too much about a long wear compound, although I do have some in a long wear compound I am going to try. So they'll last. They'll last you a few runs. In fact, down at Lone Star, I took a set of yellows that I ran at the series race for Indy, and I ran those for both at Indy for both mains and qualifiers. In both classes, and then down at Thornhill I ran it for all of my qualifiers and the 40 plus B main, and they're pretty blown out right now. I enjoyed them. They were good. They weren't necessarily the fastest tire, but they were an easy tire to drive, and to me that's what makes it a good tire, is if it's easy to drive. Sweepers I still like a lot. I ran a set of silver sweepers with the unused foams with a hole punched through the center of them this past Saturday at Indy, and I like that a whole lot. The car seemed to have a lot more forward momentum, more so than I was used to on the sweeps that I've run in the past. So I'm going to continue at least on sweepers to punch the center foams. I have some ready to go for the next series race at Indy, assuming the temperature is right. And I think I punched the centers on the whips, the Silver X whips that I have. The car seemed to have a lot more momentum, a lot more forward momentum than I'm used to on a non-revolt tire. I still like the revolts. I wish I could get them in silver. Blues I'm sitting on for later this summer, especially down at Action Park, A1 Air Raceway at Action Park, and maybe up at Shaw's. I haven't decided. Definitely at Indy, but they're still going to be used. Pixels are still really good. Carbides are still really good. Micro contacts are still really good. So really my opinion has only changed on the whips. So I don't want to spend too much time on that. What I do want to spend more of my time on this video talking about is the center diff. My experience has been changing the center diff is one of the biggest changes I've ever done. So like I talked about in my reaction to Thornhill, I'd been running 7.75 in my diffs at Indy. Thornhill, I needed a little bit extra, so I went up to 8K. I probably would have been fine had I just completely redone all of my diffs and had fresh fluid in them, because when I changed them, they were all, except for the rear, they were all kind of dirty. Today what I'm doing is I'm changing from the 8K that I went to, and I ran that at Indy, and I like that a whole lot, so I'll probably still continue to run 8K at Indy. What I'm doing today is I'm doing a full service on my diff. I'm cleaning everything out. I like to use a microfiber towel just to clean everything off. And I'm going to put 5K in it. And the reason why I'm doing 5K, the reason why I'm going down and not going back to 8, is because I'm going to a loose track. I'm going up to Shaw's this weekend for the second postponed opening of their Red River Shootout Series. And if you're going to a loose track, you want to kind of lower everything. You really want your car to pull through turns more than push through turns. And what I mean by that is you want your front wheels to do more of the work. So in your center diff, if you have a higher number, like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever, in your center diff, it engages more four-wheel drive. It makes all four wheels engage more simultaneously. The lower the number you go, the more forward drive it is instead of less four-wheel drive. So running at 7.75, it's kind of that weird spot where it's still a lot of forward drive, but it's got a lot of rear drive. You go down to 5, and it's going to be more forward wheels engaging first, so it'll pull your car through than all four wheels engaging at the same time, thus allowing the car to work a little better going out of turns. 5 in the center at a track like Indy, hard packed dirt, isn't necessarily bad. It's just when you have traction for days, the higher the number in the center takes advantage of it better. When I mean a full service, sometimes what I generally do is I'll just change the oil. So all I'm doing is just updating what is in my center diff. When I do a full service, I take the entire thing apart, which I'd taken apart before the video started, and then I'll wipe everything out. I'll inspect my bearings, which you just saw me do. I'll inspect the diff gasket, all my cross pins and everything. I do this probably about once a month, maybe. Not nearly enough, to be completely honest. And then I rebuild the diff. I started using this red and tacky to seal my diffs, just because it was given to me. Normally what I do use is Lucas Extra Tacky. It's a black grease, very similar to what comes in the kit. This is just in a syringe that somebody gave me. That gets right down into the bottom of the differential to seal it off, and it'll keep oil from coming out. If I can get this cross pin in. Yeah, first time. The reason why you want to check the bearings on there is you want to make sure that your differentials, anytime you service them, do a full service, is they spin freely, just so that you can get the correct range of motion on it. I have never personally bent cross pins, although I know people who have, and I wonder how that happens. but my cross pins are fine, my gears are fine. But I'm going to talk about my gasket here in a second. So I've got my cross pins. What I do when I build my diff is I put all the gears in first, and then I start to fill it with oil. I use PTRC oil. I think it's a great value. A little bit bigger bottle than Associated. It's a lot more consistent than Associated. It's rated in CST, which just about everybody uses now. So I don't have to worry about, you know, any type of different ratings. And then even that, actually it's in K, it's not in CST. That's my apologies there. But on their shock fluid, it's rated in CST, which everybody uses instead of weight. The biggest attraction for me to use PTRC is just because it is a local guy. I like to support local when I can. And what I do to fill my diffs is I'll fill it up until I've covered the gears. This is already a little too full. And then I'll just let it sit. For this video though, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put the top gear on. And then any excess oil that comes out, I'll just take either my microfiber towel, which is right next to me, or a blue shop towel, and I'll wipe the excess off. The microfiber sometimes leaves behind little strands of hair, and that's usually because of my cat than the towel itself. But I'll wipe it off even, make sure there's none on the top of the differential, and then I'll move on to working on the top of the diff. I believe this grease is the Mobil 1 Red and Tacky, which it definitely is very tacky. So I mentioned the gasket, and the only reason why I'm replacing the gasket on this one is because when I opened my differential, the gasket pulled off. Normally it doesn't do that. Normally it stays attached to the top of the pinion gear. But since it came off on the gasket and kind of pulled off, I'm going to go ahead and replace it. I also replace them about every 3 or 4 differential services anyway, just to keep them fresh and make sure it closes right. And I think I was working on my 10 scale at Indy on this past Saturday, and somebody asked me what I was doing and how I seal them. So I'll go ahead and take an opportunity to talk about how I close my differentials too. What I use is the DeWalt gyroscopic electric screwdriver, like most people. I don't have the pistol handle one. I have the regular one. Micah Smith, local fast guy, has like 5 of them. 4 I know for sure. 5 is probably an exaggeration, but he literally has one for every size bit in his toolbox, and then one for a 5.5 nut driver. So he's literally got a gambit of these things. He loves them. I love them. It's one of my favorite tools, which I'll do a video on my favorite tools. What I do though is I'll get my top gear on my differential lined up to match where the cross pins go in. Try to make a cross between this spot here on the gift where the cross pin goes into the back of the gear and in the screw holes. And I'll try to line up the top of my diff to do the exact same thing. And then when I'm putting it on, I try to use just natural light to line up the screw holes. Usually gets me a really perfect fit. And if not, it's not very far off to where the whole thing fits together and I don't have anything mislined. And then I take my trusty DeWalt driver, and what I love about this thing on diffs is it does it perfect just about every time. is you can hold it in your hand, and because it is gyroscopic, it will basically stop itself. It doesn't have a built-in clutch. This one does not have a built-in clutch, but you can clutch it in your own hands, and I'm struggling here. What you do is you just punch the button, turn it, and you hold it in a way to where once it turns on its own back around, your finger pulls off the trigger and it stops itself. And 9 out of 10 times it gets the diff perfect. There's no crunchiness whatsoever to it. It's nice and smooth. Gear mesh inside the differential is outstanding. And you're good to go. Bam. So that's my center diff. Like I said, I went down to 5K just because I'm going to a loose dirt track. Same thing kind of also applies to your shocks. You kind of want to loosen your shocks a little bit, go a little bit lighter on your shocks, maybe in your springs, maybe in your sway bar, just to gain traction, mechanical traction. You can also go up on the rear tower, and that's probably what I'll do after some testing on Saturday morning, because I'm not going out Friday night. But that's that. If you have any other questions or comments, please leave them on the video. Again, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I believe we are up to 58 or 59 subscribers now, so about 40 away from being able to give away a couple sets of tires, which I am currently building up on stock. Also, if you have any questions, go ahead and just ask me at the track if you see me. If not, go ahead and leave them on my Facebook page and at Hit RC. And I will see you at the track. Thanks for watching.